Rules are on the verge of becoming meaningless. These rules are no longer in effect. The same Republicans who voted for him 6 months ago say, the heck with it. Tear him up.
So that's Democratic Senator Pat Leahy ripping up the Senate rules in protest to what Chairman Lindsey Graham was doing on that committee. Now, he is right, and the Republicans did break the rules, but there's a little bit of a twist that I want to tell you about what the Democrats actually get upset about and what they don't get upset about. But for the rest of the story, Casper.
All right, so Senator Lindsey Graham is now a Trump loyalist, even though earlier he had said that Trump is a bigot and should go to hell. And so he does Trump's bidding for him, including helping Trump with the type of funding that he needs for border security, and more importantly, with the type of legislation that would severely restrict asylum seekers from coming into the country. So there was supposed to be a vote in the Senate Judiciary Committee on something known as the Secure and Protect Act of 2019. Now, this would do away with the Flores Agreement, which limits the amount of time the US can keep migrant children in custody. And he also wanted to restrict how asylum seekers would be able to seek asylum here in the US. Now, his bill would reverse an order on detention known as the 20-day rule and allow for children to be held by immigration officials for up to 100 days. So that's how extreme this is. Also, the measure would fund 500 new immigration judges, which is good. We need more immigration judges. But here's the issue. In order for a vote to happen, there are certain rules. You have to have a certain number of Democrats and Republicans from the committee there in order to take the vote. There has to be at least 2 representatives from the minority group, and in this case, it's Democrats. There was only 1 Democrat there, which means that they should not have been able to vote. But Lindsey Graham decided to just toss the rules away and conducted the vote anyway to push this legislation through. Now, I want to be clear about something. It is unlikely that this is even gonna pass in the Senate. Right now, they just voted on this in committee, but the fact that he was willing to just rip up the rules and push through a vote like this shows how little the Republican Party cares about the rules, cares about civility or quorum or any of the issues that they would pretend to care about if Democrats had done the same thing.
So before I get to Democrats' true motivation, I want to say 2 things about the specifics of this. Lindsey Graham is clearly wrong and he knows it, but look at the difference in dynamics of the Democratic Party and Republicans. So Nancy Pelosi says, I don't want to do impeachment because the Senate, the Republicans in the Senate won't vote for it. So she lets Republicans veto her legislation in the House, okay? Now the Republicans on the other hand, no, of course it's not gonna pass in the House. The House is never gonna agree to get rid of the Flores settlement. Besides which, you can't. It's the judges have ruled on it. It doesn't matter if you said, I'm not gonna make it 20 days, I'm gonna make it 21 days. You can't. The judiciary has already weighed in on this. So it's unconstitutional usurping of the judiciary's role. It'll never pass in the House, and it violates their own Senate rules, and they do it anyway because they're Republicans and they don't give a damn about the rules. All they care about is power. Now, whereas on the other side, you have a bunch of weaklings who are constantly like, oh, what are the Republicans gonna do? What are the Republicans gonna say? Will you like to act for once? Now, in this case, this is not how I want the Democrats to act because it was a clear violation of the rules. So, and on the Flores settlement is not something in dispute.
Right.
So the last part of the technical aspect of this is that, so why did Graham do it in a panic like this? Why didn't he just wait for quorum? Because you can't have quorum, right? He could have just done it this week. In fact, they had quorum this week, right? Because you have to wait another week after you have quorum, and that would run into their beloved August recess.
Bingo.
That's where they take a month off and do nothing except hang out with donors and cash checks, right?
That's exactly right. And they get to enjoy their salary, they get to enjoy their health care, right? All of the things that we have to work incredibly hard for and oftentimes don't even get, even if we do work hard.
You mean the things that free stuff that America doesn't want.
Right, exactly.
All the Midwesterners do not want that.
Right, exactly. So look, before we comment on this more, I do want to show you some video of what it looked like when the committee was debating this. I want to start off with Patrick Leahy, who was outraged over Graham's dismissal of the rules. Take a look.
Chairman, point of order.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Breaking the rules of the committee.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Mr. Chairman, this is unprecedented. that
No, it's
the chairman
not.
would do this.
Mr. Chairman, you're not going to respond to our request for a point of order clarification?
No, I'm not.
This is how it's going to be. Why not? What rule are you pointing to that allows you to do this?
6 months ago, every single Republican voted for these rules. Every single Democrat voted for them. In fact, I know because they're largely the same rules as when I sat first on this committee 40 years ago. I like to think they mean something. I like to think we could rely on them. But even though every Republican and Democrat voted for them, these rules are on the verge of becoming meaningless. These rules are no longer in effect. The same Republicans who voted for them 6 months ago say, the heck with it. Tear them up. Tear them up. That's what we're doing. Just tear them up.
Very, very passionate, response to what Lindsey Graham did.
Well, there's two reasons for that. One is personal for Leahy. Graham earlier had told him, well, you guys should have showed up to the meeting and that's why we didn't have quorum. It's your fault. Leahy said, I was at a funeral for a family member. And Graham's like, sorry. Yeah, but still, other people should have showed up. That's why I broke the rules. That's actually not an excuse. That's not how it works. You don't get to break the rules if you thought the other side went to too many funerals. But the main thing that I was telling you guys, want to tell you guys is that you see the Democrats getting pretty animated. I mean, ripping stuff up, and even Feinstein woke up out of her nap and was like, "Wait, what are you guys doing? You really doing this? This is outrageous." So is it because they really wanted to protect the kids and they don't want them separated for longer than 20 days or in the detention facilities? No, this has no chance of passing. They know the House will block it. No, it's not that because they wanted to fight for their voters. This is about their power and privilege.
It's funny because I actually don't think they were animated enough.
Yeah.
I still think that their response was incredibly weak considering how, is Lindsey Graham a dictator? You can't just throw the rules away and do whatever you want to do. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absolutely that. And it's interesting, we were talking about how the Republicans, for them, rules matter when rules operate in their favor, when rules give them an advantage. Because, Feinstein said everybody was outraged by this as they were outraged by Harry Reid in 2013 going for the nuclear option. And what was that? That was a time when the Democratic senators ruled the Senate and Obama was in power and Obama couldn't pass any of his nominees with the exception, also Supreme Court nominees, but also Court Appellate's nominees. And so what Harry Reid did was that he eliminated filibuster so that they could get some of these nominees through without a 60 in favor 4 vote because they didn't have that many Democrats. And so, you know who was outraged? The Republicans were outraged. And especially Mitch McConnell was infuriated.
Right.
And so they forgot about that.
Yeah, so I do want to make one important distinction there because they actually had a vote following the rules of order on getting rid of the filibuster. So filibuster was a tradition, but they didn't violate any rules in getting rid of it, and the Republicans did likewise for the Supreme Court. I actually think the entire filibuster should be gotten rid of, but they didn't violate any of the rules in doing that.
That's a good point.
Whereas the Republicans were just like, no, I'm not even gonna follow the rule. I don't care what the rule is. What are we, lawmakers? Actually, you kind of are.
Yeah.
And I just one more point of clarification on how little Democratic politicians care about their voters as opposed to their own privileges. You remember the shutdown of the government that happened for a couple of days. The Democrats said they were doing it to protect Dreamers. No, they told the reporters, in fact, they were really mad at the Republicans for taking away some of their privileges and being able to propose amendments and bills, et cetera, probably laden with pork that they wanted for their own benefits and their own donors. And you can tell that that's a fact because once their privileges were put back, the government was reopened and the Dreamers still have no protection.
Right.
For Democratic politicians, it's almost always about themselves. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.